At my mother's 80th birthday dinner, my stepdaughter raised her glass and called me my husband's retirement plan. When I asked her to apologize, Grant laughed and said, "She's not your daughter, Evie. Don't correct her." That was the moment something inside me went still. Not broken, not angry, still. I had spent 3 weeks arranging that dinner, calling ahead so my mother's walker could get through the door, bringing a cushion for her new knee. Madison arrived 40 minutes late in a coat I'd helped pay for, kissed her father's cheek, waved at my mother, and buried her face in her phone. Dinner went fine for 20 minutes. Then my son Daniel asked how her classes were going, and she said, "College is easy when Dad marries a woman who loves spreadsheets and automatic payments." Nobody laughed. She lifted her glass anyway. To Dad, he finally found a retirement plan with excellent credit. I asked her to apologize. She asked what for. That's when Grant put his hand over my wrist, hard enough to still me, and said it loud enough for the whole table to hear. "She's not your daughter. Don't correct her." I told him to take his hand off me. He rolled his eyes and called me dramatic. On the drive home, he told me I'd embarrassed him. I told him I'd embarrassed him. He said Madison was still just a kid, 21, but still a kid whenever a bill was due, and an adult the rest of the time, depending on which one let him off the hook. I didn't sleep. At 6 the next morning, I opened 22 months of bank statements. I do payroll for a living. Numbers don't confuse me, they just wait for me to look. Tuition, Jeep payments, insurance, a monthly allowance, sorority dues, a study abroad deposit, and then transfers marked MH Education, almost $30,000, routed not to her university, but into an account tied to Grant's real estate business. I didn't call the school. I didn't touch her car. I just stopped volunteering my money, canceled the Jeep payment, pulled her off my credit card, ended the allowance, moved my consulting income somewhere Grant couldn't reach it. He found me at the table with the statements spread out. "What the hell did you do?" I turned the laptop toward him. "I followed your boundary. She isn't my daughter. You're her father." His anger lasted about 5 seconds, until his eyes hit the transfers, and the color left his face. He called it an operating account, said it was complicated. I asked to see the education reserve he claimed he'd set it up as. He didn't have an answer. He left without breakfast. Madison called within the hour, furious that her card had stopped working. No mention of my mother, just the card. Then she posted something online about older women who use money to control younger women. Grant's sister called to tell me I couldn't abandon a child over hurt feelings. Even my son, when he heard, said he wasn't surprised, and I snapped at him for it before I could stop myself. In one day, I'd managed to hurt the one person actually on my side. I met with the bank and went through every transaction, $84,000, over nearly 2 years. Some had gone where Grant said. A lot hadn't. His brokerage, a loan servicer, an account marked only with initials. I thought about the furnace we'd left broken because Madison's education came first. I thought about his new Lexus. My banker told me to get a lawyer. 2 days later, Madison showed up at the house needing the Jeep keys, and Grant, cornered, admitted the vehicle might need to be returned temporarily. She turned on him. "You told me she agreed to cover everything." The room went quiet. That night he texted me that I was destroying the family. I texted back that he'd stolen from me and used my dead husband's memory to impress people. My attorney, Nathan, told me never to write that again, not because Grant didn't deserve it, but because every true sentence I sent him could be printed without the 10 lies that came before it. Nathan is the one who found it. A request to add Grant as joint owner on one of my investment accounts, rejected because the signature didn't match mine. No money had moved, but someone had known the exact balance on that account, and only 2 people ever had. I started hearing things secondhand, a neighbor asking if I was overwhelmed lately, a client emailing to check I wasn't retiring. Small, harmless-sounding questions, forming a pattern. Grant wasn't just defending himself. He was preparing people not to believe me, using the one thing that terrifies people our age, memory loss. Then my payroll client Arthur called, a man who'd buried his wife after years of her Alzheimer's, who never called me directly unless something mattered. He played me a voicemail, Grant's voice, warm and concerned. "Evie's getting forgetful. Nothing dangerous yet, but you might want to think about transitioning your payroll before things get complicated." Arthur looked at me and said, "I know what early dementia looks like. You don't have it." He handed me a copy of the recording. "You're my payroll manager," he said, "and my friend." Madison called again, asking to meet. She showed up at a coffee shop without makeup, in an old university sweatshirt, and told me the school had put a hold on her account. She'd called her father 12 times. He was busy at networking events, not fixing tuition. Then she pulled out printed emails. One line stopped my heart. "Once Evie signs the updated estate plan, we won't have to keep asking permission." I'd never seen any estate plan. She'd been told I already had, that everything would stay in the family, that I wanted to take care of her the way I'd apparently promised. None of it was true. She'd also been asked, the day before, to sign a statement claiming I'd always known where the money went. She refused. I told her I was still angry, but willing to believe she could become someone different. It wasn't forgiveness. It was the first honest thing she'd said to me. Nathan called soon after with more. Grant's ex-wife had records showing he'd run this exact pattern in his first marriage, and confirmed that money meant for Madison's education had actually gone to satisfy his old divorce settlement. My marriage hadn't funded my stepdaughter's future. It had been propping up my husband's past. Grant came home changed, quiet, attentive, flowers on the counter, a warmed towel for my aching hands. For a few dangerous days, I wanted to believe it. Then he brought out refinancing paperwork with my house listed as collateral, temporary, to cover business debt and Madison's tuition both. When I asked if the whole Gentle Week act had been a setup, he got angry and invoked my late husband's name to guilt me into signing. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. I threw the flowers in the trash. That was the moment he realized I'd stopped playing the part he'd written for me. Nathan had one more move. Grant was being honored the following week at a regional business luncheon and had already told people I'd be there to publicly support him after my stressful few weeks. Nathan's advice: go. Not to destroy him, to stop protecting him. I stood at that podium in front of 200 people who'd trusted me with their payroll for years and said that for 2 years people had assumed my silence meant approval. I said I'd been told I had no parental role with my stepdaughter, so I'd stopped funding her expenses. I said money I believed was paying for her education had gone elsewhere, that an unauthorized attempt had been made on one of my investment accounts, that I'd filed for separation. I didn't accuse him of anything I couldn't prove, only facts. Grant grabbed the microphone and painted it as stress, as confusion, mentioned my mother's health for sympathy. For one terrible moment, I thought it had worked. Then Arthur stood, phone in hand, and played the voicemail for the whole room. No one needed it explained twice. Then Madison stood, trembling, holding the same printed emails, and said her father had lied to her too, that I'd never agreed to any of it, that everything she had, I'd paid for. The board postponed his award on the spot. No one cheered. Real consequences don't come with applause. They just quietly begin. The divorce took 11 months. Forensic accounting traced most of what had disappeared. I recovered part of it, not all. Justice is expensive. His largest development collapsed within the year. He sold the Lexus, moved into a small apartment. Madison took a semester off, moved in with her mother, worked the campus bookstore, and started paying me back for what she'd charged, a little every month. Over coffee, months later, she told me she'd mistaken my kindness for weakness. I told her it had been proof I trusted the wrong person. She said she wouldn't make that mistake again. Neither would I. I finally fixed the furnace we'd let go for 2 years. My back stopped aching quite so much once I stopped carrying everyone else's problems. Looking back, the best part was never watching Grant lose the award or the marriage or the money. It was realizing kindness was never supposed to require endless sacrifice, and love was never supposed to require giving up my own judgment. If someone has ever mistaken your generosity for an obligation, remember this: Setting a boundary might cost you a relationship, but it will save your self-respect. And sometimes that's exactly where a better life begins.